I love the sequence where he like fights the squid. I would have loved if they just like made him take a piss in that river at that point.
He just like unzips his fur and just like
knocks down. He's just knocking down technology of the 21st century with his dong, King Dong, Dong Skull Island. Hey everybody, welcome to Twin Talk, a video discussion show where twin brothers Chris and Kevin drink and draw while talking about comic books, movies, and all things pop culture. We are your hosts, Chris Hart,
Kevin Hart.
And today we're going to be talking about the 2017 monster film, Kong Skull Island.
Stick around to the end of the episode to see how a drawing of King Kong came out. And if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel for more content. Kong Skull Island is the second installment in Legendary's Monsterverse. It came out in 2017. It was directed by Jordan Vogt-Roberts, who can easily be mistaken for a ZZ Top member with this beard he's rocking. He looks
down to his belly at this point.
Down to his nads, but yeah, dude's rocking a girthy neck beard. Dan Gilroy helped write the script. That's an impressive name for me because he worked on the movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. I think it was written and directed by Dan Gilroy. Nightcrawler, great movie.
One of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. That's actually his dictorial. Nightcrawler is Dan Gilroy's directorial debut, which is pretty impressive because it's one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time.
This movie stars an impressive cast of characters, a lot of recognizable faces in here and names. Tom Hiddleston, Sam Jackson, John Goodman, Brie Larson, Toby Kebbell, and John C. Reilly. Who would have thought, man, a movie starring half the Marvel Cinematic Universe. John C. Reilly. Wreck-It Ralph is one of the best characters in this movie.
I would actually love to see Wreck-It Ralph versus King Kong. Just a pair of mitts, bro.
2 giant mitts.
4 giant hands just going at it.
Clapping each other. He's this American World War II fighter pilot. He crash lands on this unknown island with this other Japanese pilot. And I loved that intro, by the way. I thought it was a clever sequence with the
it's pretty great, yeah.
Production logos coming up. You hear the airplanes, something that's pretty much synonymous with King Kong at this point. But we see, it's revealed that we're not in New York anymore. We're over the Southwest Pacific or whatever the heck it was. And I like that they kind of depart from, the familiar with Kong. That they kind of take us to his home and they kind of, make the story their own. And I appreciated that.
No matter what, though, every Kong movie, whether it's in New York, San Francisco, Mexico, King Kong, he's a fiend for a big blonde booty. and they got Brie Larson in this for this role.
Which, going over this cast, yeah, I think that, Brie Larson, she's not my favorite actress, even with Captain Marvel and stuff. She delivers an incredible flatline performance. Tom Hiddleston, too, he's the biggest disappointment for me in this movie.
Definitely.
With a name like that. And even his character, he was forgettable. I think he was just like a tracker, and that's really the only reason why he's on this island with this team of soldiers and scientists. A very forgettable character. The 2 standouts to me, well, 3 really, were Sam Jackson, John C. Reilly, and John Goodman. John
Goodman's great. Definitely good.
He's always great.
John Goodman definitely commits to this role, and I appreciated it, like how he took seriously this Monsterverse. And going back to Tom Hiddleston, one of the most impressive things about this entire movie to me is the color palette. And
gorgeous.
It really is. There's like a lot of oranges and blues and greens. And there's one scene where they meet Tom Hiddleston's character in a bar. And it's like these like gorgeous red and blues of the club. And I really appreciated stuff like that. Because a lot of people crap on this director. And even going back to Gareth Edwards on Godzilla, a lot of people are like, oh, they're just these directors that have a little bit of fame with their previous movies. And then Hollywood gives them the keys to the kingdom with these big franchises. Yeah, so... Gareth Edwards got Godzilla and Star Wars. This guy got King Kong, and it's just like it's not the director's fault that the movie doesn't land as well as people want it to. It's honestly comes down to the screenwriters, and that's where I'm a little bit disappointed in Dan Gilroy when it comes to this.
Yeah, a lot of the characters are very I mean, obviously it's a monster movie. A lot of them are going to die, so they have to kind of be expendable.
Yeah.
And also 2 other characters that really stood out to me too were I forget their names, but it was like a seasoned vet and a younger, the black soldier. He was a younger soldier. Their, comedy duo really worked for me. Towards the end of this movie, this guy makes the ultimate sacrifice in vain.
Is that the guy when he takes the grenade?
Yes. Even when they first meet Kong, he's like just opening his canned food and he's like, "How are you eating right now?" Blah blah. And he's like, "It was an unconventional encounter. We weren't prepared." Like he was just like he was like completely unfazed.
He's like your typical
He's seen it all.
Vietnam War veteran, hard ass.
But his sacrifice for this team, he opens up this whole can of grenades on his chest and everything. And this Skullcrawler, which is the antagonist of the film for Kong, he's coming towards him and he's like, come on, come towards me. And he's like crying. He knows he's gonna die, and this thing just smacks him, and he goes like 7 football fields away, smacks into a mountain. If his neck wasn't broken from the tail at him, it was the fact that he got like evaporated by these grenades. But sad moment, but it was also kind of funny though.
It's kind of funny, but at the same time, it's just like, damn. He's about to go out like a badass, instead he goes out like a punk ass.
Going back to Brie Larson and this whole departure from your typical, this is not your daddy's Kong. This is not even your granddaddy's Kong. The original King Kong movie, 1933, is almost 90 years old, which is mind-boggling to me.
It's pretty impressive.
If you go back and look at that footage, that was an impressive movie for its time. But, we've seen different iterations and remakes over time. I like how they go away from New York and the typical blonde. Even in the movie, Brie Larson, which is a sad excuse for, replacing Ann Darrow, if you will, if that was their intention. We think that Kong, their first encounter, that Kong sees this young, attractive blonde woman. We think he's going to take her and put her in his fist and run off to New York like the typical movies, but he just kind of shrugs her off like, don't flatter yourself, and he walks away like a total boss.
I really appreciate this movie for what it is, a big, old, like...
larger than life.
A big budget
bigger,
monster
better.
movie, action adventure, and like the same thing with like the way I feel about the 98 Godzilla film. Not a great Godzilla movie, but a good action adventure film for the time. And I feel like Kong Skull Island was kind of a disappointment for me, especially since we loved the 2005 remake from Peter Jackson when he did King Kong, and I just feel
it's
like,
hard not to compare it.
Yeah, like we had that comparison going into this film. So when you see this, it's a little bit of a letdown, but at the same time, if you take it for what it is, it's just like, all right, yeah, I could buy into this. It's a big popcorn summer blockbuster. Where you can go watch King Kong destroy a few monsters.
Throw it on in the background too, on DVD and stuff. Yeah,
the action's great.
Yeah.
The colors are gorgeous.
Fight scenes are great. Yeah. We're going to be talking about 2005 Peter Jackson's King Kong in another video. We're doing this whole series leading up to Godzilla vs. Kong coming in late March on HBO Max and in theaters. We already did the 2014 Godzilla movie, so check that out. We're going to be doing King of the Monsters next, so definitely check that out as well. But yeah, it's hard not to make comparisons to that movie because that was such a good love letter to the original. Even comparing the island, Skull Island itself, it's kind of a character on its own, right?
Absolutely.
This place. Yeah, I like the one line that they do say in the movie. John Goodman says it's a place where I think God didn't finish creating, and I love that because Skull Island is basically like hell on earth. It's the worst place you want to be. All these creatures are like horrific nightmares, and some of the things were crazy, like that spider crab. That was an intense sequence. The skull crawlers were okay. Other than that, there wasn't much that sent shivers down my spine as they did on Skull Island of the 2005 Peter Jackson King Kong film. I loved, like you said before, about the visuals of this movie. I think that's one thing that's a big takeaway is the visuals. They shot on a lot of island locations, but a lot of the movie is obviously CGI. Clearly, it has to be. But I think that's kind of like the thing. It's like a larger than life. Even the tone of the movie, the fact that it's set in Vietnam, it's like this macho, bigger, bolder, better. I think
it's kind of like Predator, the original Predator.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's just a bunch of like oiled up muscle dudes in Vietnam or jungle.
It's just in your face. Yeah, no 70s era movie, Vietnam era movie is complete without a 70s rock and roll montage and
CCR Credence. And I like that, especially since we know that 2014's Godzilla took place in that modern day, and then you go back and you see this Kong Skull Island. I was cool with it being like Kong being like a baby or a teenager. They said he was going to be, and then now that Godzilla vs. Kong's coming out, he's going to be a full grown. He's gonna be a grown ass man.
He's gonna be a man, bro.
He's like he's gonna have paid his dues. He's already living a tough life on Skull Island.
He's an orphan. His parents are dead. We see their bones in the graveyard from skull crawlers. Henry Jackman does a really good job with the score, but the soundtrack, the highlights for me are the American rock and roll music. America's pastime, pretty much. Adrenaline pumping. Even that first encounter, but but after going through this like crazy like geostorm or whatever the heck it was.
Yeah.
I like that was kind of like a barrier end to the island because they said it was kind of like the Bermuda Triangle. I love their first encounter with Kong.
Which is the poster for the movie, which is
beautiful.
The choppers coming towards him and just this giant... And I love even Toby Kebbell's line. He's like, "Is that a monkey?
Is that a monkey?" Toby Kebbell has the dude's British. He has the worst Southern accent I've ever heard. Yeah. They depart from planes, but we got helicopters, so that's kind of the difference. Is that these helicopters are going at Kong, and this was a brutal introduction to Skull Island. You know,
Great.
he's kind of like they view him as their protector, right? Kong is king on the island. He's kind of like their god. He fights them from the skull crawlers and everything else. So I like that. I like the theme too of this whole that man is the monster, which kind of carries into King of the Monsters, but more so because it was in the Vietnam era. This whole political kind of theme that they're kind of showcasing, that America goes into different territories and kind of kicks the door down, unwelcome guests, and they're kind of just destroying these people's homes that would otherwise endure on their own. And Kong is kind of like that character. They kind of humanize him in that way, is that he's like kind of this protector of this island, and now they're dropping bombs on his face.
Back, yeah.
And he's fighting back. So that was a cool way of like making the conflict work. And just the way he's smacking these helicopters out of the air and stuff. And then this one guy falls into his mouth with an incredible segue of this guy eating like a sandwich on the island. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah,
brilliant director.
That was a good, nice cut. He does so much damage early on. And then you think about, like you said, Skull Island's a character in its own. There's that one brutal sequence. I think it was the spider you said, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like the dude's like drinking from his canteen. And then the spider just like shoves its like... He's just walking.
Bamboo leg into his mouth.
Bamboo leg into his mouth. It just like, destroys him.
That was brutal.
That was the part where I was just like, man, like Skull Island is so scary in its own right. When you see the other creatures that are on there besides Kong, honestly, like in retrospect, like Kong is like
nothing.
Like he's the good part of the island. Like, you want him around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
keep order. Same way that we have Godzilla in 2014. He was like that force of nature that balanced out the order of things.
That's what I'm saying. I like how they're kind of like personifying these CGI characters, really.
I love the sequence where he like fights the squid. I would have loved if they just like made him take a piss in that river at that point. That would have been like a nice comedy beat for me, but he doesn't.
He just like unzips his fur and just like
knocks down. He's just knocking down technology of the 21st century with his dong, King Dong Skull Island.
Oh my goodness!
But he fights this squid or octopus, which I loved because it's almost like a little like he's enjoying calamari a little bit. He's just like slurping it down like it's a soup. He carries the rest of it with him for like seconds later and stuff.
Little lemon juice, squeeze lemon juice.
The thing I liked about it too is that it's just called Kong. And even now we see Godzilla vs. Kong. He's not called King Kong. He's king of Skull Island, but he's not called King Kong yet. So will he be the victor in this movie? Will he be the good guy in Godzilla vs. Kong? And will he earn the title of king? Because we know that we left off in King of the Monsters where Godzilla's, he's the king now. He let everybody know.
King of the Monsters, yeah.
The title says it all, but not only that, he has them all like bowing down to him at the end of the film. So I'm looking forward to seeing where the conflict comes down. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What is a king to a god?
One other thing I loved about this movie and the character in it, one of the stronger characters to me is Sam Jackson's character too.
Great. Yeah.
I love that he had this like Captain Ahab vendetta against catching this giant beast.
Yep.
Because this was a guy that all he knew was war. He won a bunch of medals in war, and
he was almost like purposeless with that.
Yeah, he lost his sense of purpose and identity once they said, okay, you're done, the war's over, blah, blah, blah. And he took on this mission to go to Skull Island in search of more violence and the rush of everything. So I really loved that he was like, as soon as he got there,
he was hell-bent on this.
He wanted to kill that thing. He wanted to take over it, let him know that man is king.
Honestly, I'm enjoying the Monsterverse, honestly, up to this point.
Me too.
It seems like they have a good plan laid out, and the movies are enjoyable. Some expendable characters, like we said, story-wise. But, we're here to watch the CGI monsters fight. We're here for the soundbar to be, pushed to its limit.
Yeah, even if you have HBO Max or you're just a fan growing up, you watch the old monster movies, the kaiju films, you never watched it for the humans or the plot or the characters. You watched it to see the monsters fight. As you get older, you wish there was a little bit more character development. And they're trying, at least, But, when you go back and rewatch those old ones, just like, you don't care. You're there for the monsters.
I think out of the, 3 movies deep? Mm-hmm. I think out of the 3 movies so far, these humans are the ones I care about the most, this story. Because John C. Reilly's character, he has a great arc, honestly. Between him befriending this Japanese pilot that were once enemies in World War II. And I love that he reunites with his family towards the end of the movie. He gets that hot dog.
The hot dog
in Chicago.
The Chicago Cubs. I was going to say Chubs. Chicago Cubs baseball game on TV. He meets his wife, who somehow hasn't cheated on him. Hasn't slept with another man in 80 years, which is shocking because he's John C. Reilly. And it's like, you could find a tube sock that looks better than John C. Reilly and cheat on that thing. So he made his way there. Good for him. Good for his character. Hollywood.
Hollywood. Found a good one. Hold on to her tight. Anyways, that about wraps up today's episode of Twin Talk. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Comment below to join the discussion. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll see you next time. Peace!
First things first. That's the first time that Kevin has ever finished a beer or drink at the same time as me. We got a lot of people commenting in that he needs to step up his game. That I got a lot of refills going here.
My brother's alcoholism on spotty.
So, congratulations. I remember my first period.